listeners and viewers. Welcome to Kaduna State Ministry of Education Radio and TV e-learning program designed for our SS3 and other students staying at home due to the coronavirus pandemic. The present administration, under the able leadership of His Excellency, Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, is positioned, as always, to ensure that under his leadership, our students are not left behind in all areas of human endeavors, especially education. Kaduna State is the center of learning. Therefore, we want to ensure that our students excel in their forthcoming examinations and beyond. Students and other learners at home are given this opportunity in order to continue learning, as education is a continuous process. Different subjects will be taught in this program to assist students to perform excellently in the forthcoming Senior School Certificate examination being conducted by NECO and WAEC as soon as schools reopen. Teachers making presentations will always provide their names and phone numbers during each presentation, and they can be contacted for questions, further explanations, and/or clarifications. The following numbers and contacts can also be reached for expression of any concern or observation: 090-865-00545 or 080-383-62072. Our website is www.education.kdsg.gov.ng. Our email education@kdsg.gov.ng or education.kdsg@gmail.com. Our YouTube channel, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Our Twitter handle @Kaduna_MOE. Or our Facebook page, Ministry of Education, Kaduna State. Stay safe, stay at home, and learn well. Thank you, happy listening, and happy viewing.
Good day, my students at home. I am here once again with a very interesting topic in woodwork titled Veneers and Veneering. I still remain your woodwork teacher, Mr. Daniel Bulus Chawe. With me are my outlines: introduction, definition of veneer, the uses of veneer, types of veneer, procedures or steps for manufacturing of veneer, veneering, tools used for veneering, and lastly, the precautions to be observed when veneering. Timber, as we all know, are produced from log, and they are cut in smaller widths. And these widths do not serve the purpose of the need of manufacturers whenever there is the need to produce wider boards. And as such, manufacturers of veneers always thought about how boards with wider width can be manufactured. But before we go into the methods of manufacturing or how wider boards can be manufactured, let us try to look at what a veneer is, the types of veneers, the uses of veneers, and how they can be used to produce boards. What is a veneer? A veneer is a thin sheet of wood obtained from a log or a section of a log by rotary peeling, slicing, or fine sawing. What do we use veneers for? Veneers are used for the manufacture of plywood, making laminated bents and molded shapes. For example, the arcs in our buildings and domes on our buildings. Secondly, veneers are used for decorative purposes, that is, gluing it to the surface of solid wood or composite board. Composite board. Types of veneers. Veneers are of four types. One, we have the core veneer, the crossband veneer, the back veneer, and the face veneer. Let's take the first type of veneer, the core veneer. The core veneer is the central ply or plies which form the base or ground to which the face veneer are glued. The thickness ranges from 2 mm to 6 mm. From the diagram we can see that consists of a veneer at the top and another at the bottom with one in the middle. The one at the top is the face veneer. The one in the middle is the core veneer, which is the base, and the back veneer is the one at the bottom. Just like we've told, these veneers, the core veneer are used for the manufacturing of multi-ply board. It is very important to note that veneers are produced, or boards are produced to come in odd number. That is, number of 3, 5 plies, 7 plies, etc. Let's go to the second type of veneer, which is the cross-band or counter veneer. The cross-band veneer are cut from straight-grained, good-gluing timbers, which are glued across both faces of plywood, blockboard, and sometimes particle board. These veneers, the cross-band veneer, the face and back veneers are glued at 90 degrees over the cross-band veneer. And the cross-band veneers are also called the underlay veneers. And their thickness ranges from 1.3 millimeters to 1.6 millimeters. From the diagram we can see on the board, from the core veneer, we have 2 veneers at the top of the core veneer and 2 right below the core veneer, with the exception of the one at the top and the last one below. These 2 veneers, from the diagram you can see, the direction of their grain are not in the same direction. Rather, they are at right angle. From the arrow you can see. That's to tell you the grain of the core veneer and the counter veneers are not in the same direction. That is to increase strength. That is why from the board we are seeing the veneers there are called the counter veneer or the underlay veneers. Taking us to the third type of veneer, we call the back veneer. The back veneers are always on figured veneer glued to the back or hidden surface of the panel. This type of veneer are always necessary to balance the stresses, to balance the load. And it is so when only applied over solid wood, blockboard or particle board. Remember, this type of veneer are always used for thin panels, e.g. your plywood. Back veneer should be the same as the first veneer, and the thickness ranges from 0.3 to 1.6 millimeter thick. This type of veneers can be rotary peeled or sliced. And finally, the face veneers. Face veneers are cut from selected logs or section of logs which contain interesting grain markings. Why is it interesting grain markings? To give the beauty of the job and the beauty of the board. These veneers are glued to the outside or exposed surface of the panels. Just as I have said, their thickness ranges from 0.3 millimeter to 1.6 millimeter. That takes us to the next step. How can we make our veneers? How can we produce the veneers? There are 3 important stages or steps which we can use to produce our veneers. The first is softening of the flitches or the log. The second, cutting of the veneer. And the third, that is the drying of the veneer. Let's take them one after another. Softening the veneer. The log or the section of the log of the wood, before cutting, they are steamed or immersed in hot water Reason behind it is just to soften the fibers of the log so that they may be cut. During cutting, it will come with a very small tearing or breaking. Although the back green logs of some wood may be rotary peeled without this treatment, that is the softening treatment. The next is cutting of the veneer. 4 methods are involved when cutting veneers from the log or the flitches of the log. These involve the sawing. During sawing, timber boards or flitches of log that are hard and easily to break, that is, they are brittle, which with an extreme wide grains are sometimes cut into veneers by large thin gauge or segmental circular saw. From the diagram on the board, on plate 348, the sawing process, we can see from what we have on the board, it is not a complete log. Rather, it is a section of the log. After steaming, after cutting it into flitch, the flitch is now immersed, and after being softened, it is now mounted on the table of a circular saw machine, whereby the method of cutting is done this way. Remember, we are told that this method is only used where the wood is hard and can easily break. That takes us to the second method, the rotary peeling method or cutting method. This method is the most economical method of producing sheets of veneers. And sheets of veneers produced using this method are always large. And over 90% of veneers which we use these days are cut or produced using this type of method. Before the cutting, logs are first and foremost cut into billets of length 1.7 to 2.5 millimeters after debacking of the log. And if these logs are not circular in nature, they are trued to cylindrical nature before being mounted on a lathe machine. And this lathe machine revolves or is being forced to rotate these billets against a knife where veneers are cut in a flat sheet in the form of a mat. Example of timbers that are cut or rotary peeled are hoop pine, Douglas fir, beech, silky oak, and radiata pine. The thickness of veneers produced in this method are always 0.8 to 6 millimeter thick. That takes us to the next method, which is the half or semi-rotary cutting method. This method is used to produce face veneers having radial or quarter cut figures. The figure or the figured log is first cutted, and a segment of the log is fixed in a lathe with a sapwood corner at the center. And when rotated, the knife slices the veneer, cutting from the hard wood. Let's go to the diagram, please. This is the half or rotary cutting method. Remember, we were told the entire log, as against in the rotary peeling method, as we can see, is cylindrical. But in the half or quarter sawing method, half rotary, we are told that the log is divided into 4 parts, and a quarter of it is what is always mounted. And this is where the knife is. As the cutter or the flitch is rotated clockwise, the knife is positioned anti-clockwise to cut or peel our veneers against the direction of the movement of our log. That takes us to the last method, the slice cutting, or normally known as the flat cutting. This method is usually used for cutting valuable or high-grade decorative face veneers. Before slicing, logs are first and foremost sewn into flitches, steamed or soaked in hot water, and then bolting it to a strong frame which shaves off veneers with width 100 to 400 millimeter and of length 4.2 meters, and the thickness is always 1 millimeter thick. Let's go to the diagram, sir. This is the slicing, the fourth method. The difference between the slicing and the sewing method: sizes of the flitch are the same. The difference is that the slicing method is, we are told, is bolted to a frame where the knife cuts diagonally or peels off the veneers diagonally, then slicing it one after another. Let's go to the next step. That takes us to the next stage, drying. After soaking, the next step is the drying of the veneer. Excess moisture content in the veneers can be removed by 1. Air drying, 2. Kiln drying, 3. Steam, and 4. Using the hot plated dryers. In the first method, which is the air drying, the veneers are stacked on edge between vertical supports and air dried in special shade or drying rooms. Just like how your mat is, they are being supported on a wood, one at the top and the other at the bottom, being hooked to those supports, whereby it is being left, the veneers is being left just like the curtain in our rooms, where air circulates around to dry it. And the next method is the kiln drying. In this method, the veneers are stacked in racks and dried in a forced circulated drying kiln or oven. This kiln may be a compartment or a progressive kiln. The next type of dry method is the steam heated rollers. In this method, the veneers are passed between steam heated rollers where drying occurs. And finally, the hot plate dryers. The hot plate dryers are pressed between heated plates. Just like our pressing iron, the hot plate dryers, once the plate is hot, which can be electrical operated or using the charcoal iron, just like the charcoal iron, once the veneers at this stage is being laid on a support, the hot plate is moved back, forth, left and right to dry, to take off the moisture content within the veneer, and as such, drying occurs. That takes us to the next stage, veneering. What is veneering? Veneering can be defined as the art or process of decoration by gluing a thin sheet of figured and expensive wood, which we call it the veneer, to a backing or a core of a cheap but straight grained wood or man-made board, such as plywood, blockboard, or particle board. What are those procedures? What are those next step, please? Tools used for veneering include 1. The straight edge. The straight edge is required for marking. for marking out and for cutting guide when preparing veneers for gluing. The marking gauge, the straight edge, as you can see on the board, is a flat strip of wood, just like your metric rule that can be used for setting out and as a guide for setting out and also for cutting. The next tool, please, number 2, the veneer knives. The veneer knives are used for cutting thin veneers. These knives can be made from an old hacksaw blade, grounded at the edge to be sharpened and also fixed to a wooden handle to create, maybe to protect the woodworker from injuring himself during using it as a knife. What we have over there on the plate 352 are the cutting knife. As you can see, these are the knives that can be used. Next is the chisel. The chisel is used for cutting thin veneers in support in a situation where the veneer knives are not handy. The chisel, which is commonly used by all woodworkers, can still be used as the veneer knives, which you can see on plate 353 as the process of using the veneer knife to cut your veneer. The next tool is the veneer saw. The veneer saw is used for cutting thick veneer guided by a straight edge. Straight edge, just like what we have, the veneer saw is the same as the veneer knife. The only difference between the two is that the veneer saw is not sharpened to have a pointed edge, just like the veneer knife, but they are all produced from an old hacksaw blade. Let's go to the next tool, please. The next tool is the veneer clamp. The veneer clamp may be made from 2 straight edge pieces of wood with their inside faces slightly rounded. They are held together by 2 bolts with wing nuts. They are used to hold veneers when edges of a number of veneers are to be planed or jointed. The diagram, please. From the page, from the plate 355, that's the veneer clamp. 355, that's the veneer clamp. The next is the bench plane. The bench plane is used for preparing the groundwork or core for jointing of the veneers and also in cleaning the edge of finished panel. Let's go to number 7. Number 7, please. Tool number 7. Tool number 7. Tool number 7. It takes us to the toothing plane. This is similar in shape to the smoothing plane. The vertical cutting plane is grooved and it is used diagonally to cut across the core and to level out smoothing plane marks so that when gluing, it aids the penetration of glue. Next is the veneer hammer. The veneer hammer is used to flatten the veneer and force out excess veneer during gluing. Next, the flat iron. Just like our pressing iron, it is a warmed flat iron used to melt animal glue and flatten the veneer so that the veneer hammer may be used to squeeze out the glue. Tapping stick. This is a flat stick with a rounded end used for pressing the tip into the plane when edge jointing veneers. Gum tips, which is the next tool, as the gum tape. This gum tape is just like your masking tape and it is required for gluing over edge joints in veneering. That is to hold the edges of veneers when gluing. Failure to do so, it will peel and air bubbles will go into your veneer, thereby making you not having the proper type of work that will be used. Next, the precautions. Number 1, What are those rules? The rules are the core material should be fine textures and properly seasoned or dried. Number 2, veneers may be dried to a lower moisture content as they will take up 8% for cold setting synthetic resin adhesive. The next is any unsupported panel such as sliding doors, wardrobe doors, tray bases which may have small rails should be veneered on the 2 faces. Next is the back. The back of panel veneers on one side only, such as tabletops or side of cabinet and boxes, which are well supported, should be sealed or painted or polished. 5. Nails and screw holes, checks or split or unjoined gap in the groundwork and any other defects should be stopped, sanded, leveled, and should be stopped, sanded, leveled. That is, apply glue into it so that it cannot be seen, just for beauty. Number 6, we are expected to take care not to round off edges at the end and edges of the core when sanding and toothing. All the edges are always squared. In trying to sand to sandpaper, make sure you be careful so that you shouldn't break those edges. Finally, when using toothing plane, avoid the breaking of edges or sharp edges. Number 8, make sure all materials and tools are ready before commencing work. Let's go to the assignment, please. Before we go, I would like to leave an assignment with you, my fellow students, so that as you go, you can maybe make some research and let me know. The assignment, question number 1, states, distinguish between veneers and veneering. Question number 2, A, name 3 types of veneer. 2B, state where each can be used. Question number 3, describe briefly the uses of 5 tools required when veneering. Question 4, with the aid of sketches, illustrate the method of cutting veneers. I take my question again. I repeat. Question number 1 for your assignment, distinguish between veneer and veneering. Question number 2A, name 3 types of veneer you know. Question 2B, state where each can be used. Question number 3, describe briefly the uses of 5 tools required when veneering. And my last question, question number 4, with aid of sketches, illustrate the method of cutting veneers. My students at home, after you might have gone through your assignments, you can reach me with your responses on this number 080-3247-6725. I repeat again, 080-3247-6725. You can use this number to reach me on voice call, WhatsApp message, and I still remain your woodwork teacher, Mr. Daniel Bulus Chawe. Until we meet next week, remember, stay at home, stay safe. The pandemic, coronavirus, is real. Thank you. God bless you.